2 a.m., the free Odyssey app. Download it today and make us your favorite station. Same great shows, same great games. Plus, you can use the rewind feature and listen to anything you missed. Hurry!
Time for more Game Day Uncensored, post-game edition on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Dan Day along with Alex Dono. This is Game Day Uncensored post-game. Late night, great night. Not so much of a great night for Mike White. We're going to get into the stats, and the stats will tell you everything you need to know. Recapping what I told you earlier, Dono, Mike White did not help his case to be QB2. In my opinion, didn't help his case to even stay on this team. Like I said, scheduled to make around $4 million this year. Skylar Thompson, who, let's just be honest, outplayed him for better or for worse, especially tonight. Only makes about $1 million this year. Not great, but a lot of checkdowns from Mike White. Skylar Thompson came in immediately, moved the ball. I thought he was good. I thought that he came in a little earlier than I expected him to, which kind of also was kind of a warning sign that Mike White wasn't moving the ball, and the coaches finally said, we got to do something. We got to see what these other guys can do. We got to get the ball down the field. So not looking good for Mike White. I know people are texting in and tweeting in right now. They're kind of agreeing with you and I.
Yeah. If this really was an open competition for the backup quarterback job, and I believe it was, I believe we had one of those last year, and Mike White did edge out Skylar Thompson a year ago. But I think Skylar clearly, to me, has done enough to earn that backup job. And I also think something that works in Skylar's favor outside of the obvious, like you said, the ball moved when Skylar was on the field. It wasn't moving when Mike was out there. That's number one. But then number two, this is a guy, Skylar Thompson, who was drafted by the organization and is being developed as a Miami Dolphin since he started his NFL career. So I think there could be some extra allegiance to Skylar Thompson because of that. And, still, I think one thing is clear, Dan, no matter which one of these guys wins the backup quarterback job, Tua better stay healthy. I don't think you're going to win too many actual NFL regular season games or playoff games, certainly, if Mike White or Skylar Thompson is your starting quarterback. Like, this team is going to take a major hit if Tua Tagovailoa is not out on the field.
Dono, what did you tweet me around halftime of the game?
Yes, so I had my own split screen experience because there was some important high school football games going on tonight as well, actual regular season high school games. But I was watching Milton High School out of Georgia taking on American Heritage, playing match champions of Georgia against a powerhouse team from South Florida. And the quarterback from Milton High School, Luke Nickel, he's committed to the University of Miami, class of 2025. 17 years old. He was out there throwing darts. I thought Luke Nickel, to me, looked better than any quarterback wearing a Dolphin uniform tonight.
Oh, man. It was at points this preseason painful. Skylar Thompson did kind of get it rolling today. So we're going to get into the stats right now. Mike White, a very pedestrian, 5 for 9, 37 yards. Like I said, a lot of checkdowns, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Skylar Thompson, 19 for 25, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I saw 1 interception. It's saying right now that there was not an interception.
Oh, I think it might have been dropped.
No, it is an interception. I refreshed.
Oh, it is an interception. I mean, okay, I think the Dolphins dropped one that Trask threw maybe. So I remember a dropped INT.
So Malik Washington, we told you he was one of the highlights of tonight on the offensive side. Rookie, he's a 5th-round pick, or a 6th-round pick, I want to say. He was a 6th-round pick. Mo Kamara was our 5th-round pick. 6th-round pick out of Virginia. 1 carry, 40 yards. That was an electric carry. He also had some really good returns on the rushing side. Jalen Wright, we said it earlier, he looks like a pro. We have no doubts that he is going to be a pro, and he's going to be a great weapon for Mike McDaniel. 7 carries, 36 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Anthony McFarland, who we just signed, who used to play with the Pittsburgh Steelers, 6 carries, 12 yards, 2-yard average. Skylar Thompson had a rush for 10 yards. And then Alexander Harvarth brought him in once again. 3 carries, 5 yards. And Jeff Wilson Jr., 4 carries, -1 yard.
That's not great. That's not great for the resume, but I like this Jalen Wright a lot. And so now you think about the possibilities on Sundays this year where you've got the touchdown machine, Raheem Mostert, who's
Mhm.
fast as lightning, another one of these track stars for the Dolphins. Devon Achane, another track star who's setting records at Texas A&M track and going back to high school. And he was absolutely electric before he got injured last year. You throw Jalen Wright into that mix. I'm projecting him to be the third string running back, but is probably going to get some PT. I've said it before, Dan. I'll say it again. I need Mike McDaniel to make sure he takes a deep breath and doesn't abandon the running game on Sundays when it's working for him, because he did that too many times last year. Remember
Yeah.
when the Dolphins were playing Kansas City and Germany last year, and they were mounting a comeback, and Raheem Mostert could not be tackled, could not be stopped, and then McDaniel just decided we're going to start throwing on every down now. And it was like, what happened? You can't abandon the running game when it's working. Now you got all these horses. Now, I know you have horses in the passing game as well, because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, these guys are Lamborghinis. You don't want to keep them parked in the garage, but that running game gives you so many options, and they're going to keep the chains moving, and they're going to break away to score some touchdowns, Dan. I mean, you're going to see all three of these guys popping 60, 65, 70-yard touchdowns on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah, more reasons to like Jalen Wright. He has soft hands. He had 4
Yeah.
receptions for 41 yards. So he also caught some good passes. And of course, we know when he gets out in the open field, he's got some speed and he's got some moves and he's got some strength, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Hayden Rucci, though, what about that? The tight end touchdown. How long has it been since the Dolphins have seen a tight end touchdown? He was
2
one of the
years.
stars of the game. Hayden Rucci, tight end from Wisconsin, 5 receptions, 44 yards, and that great touchdown over the middle between two guys leaning on in. I was impressed with him. I don't know if he's going to make the team. It's a crowded room, but I was impressed.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to make the team either, but I'm guessing there could be a $216,000 practice squad contract in his name pretty soon, at the very least.
He looked a little nicked up too, but when you're trying to fight for a practice squad or a spot on the team, you're not hurt. You're going out there and playing.
Well,
So.
speaking of getting nicked up, so early in the game, Malik Washington, I thought the dude was like, he got drilled, absolutely drilled, because Mike White threw the guy a hospital ball. Like he threw him a pass that was like, oh, let me just get this guy demolished up the middle. And I'm like, oh my God, Malik Washington, is he okay? Then the next drive, he's back in the game and he's looking great. So kudos to him for being really tough.
Yeah, Mike White did a lot of that this preseason, throwing up some very dangerous balls that had me scared a couple times. But let's give some credit to your guy from the U, Mike Harley. 2 receptions,
Mike Harley
39
Jr.
yards.
Now, that's another reliable receiver. He set the career receptions record at Miami when he was there for 4 years. And, he obviously doesn't always have like the explosiveness of some of the top receivers in the NFL, but Harley, very good route runner, very good hands. And I want to keep seeing that young man getting more opportunities in the NFL, because I believe he can play. I believe he can play at this level.
South Florida guy, Anthony Schwartz. He looked quick. He looked fast.
Yeah.
He had 2 receptions for 24 yards. So it was good to see him. He kind of got nicked up. Of course, everybody seemed to get nicked up tonight. He got a little nicked up, but nonetheless, those are some of the guys. And Jeff Wilson Jr. did catch 2 passes for 21 yards. Jeff Wilson Jr., good receiver for a running back also. So he also adds that dimension, whether he's on the Dolphins or not, come Tuesday.
Yeah, and I wonder about that. That's going to be one of those potential roster cuts we're going to look at. This kind of makes me wish the Dolphins were on Hard Knocks, at least the preseason version this year, because I'd like to I'd like to get the inside look on how some of this stuff goes down. We're not going to know. We're going to hear, like, we're going to see Barry Jackson or somebody on X, breaking the news of who's cut on Tuesday. But not to say I want to watch videos of guys getting cut, but I'd love to kind of be able to, have the bird's eye view of the coaches' meeting rooms on how they deliberate making these decisions, because they have some tough decisions to make.
Yeah. Kyrick McGowan, maybe not make the team nonetheless. He had a nice night, 3 receptions, 18 yards, and he had that really nice touchdown that he caught from Skylar Thompson for the 2nd touchdown of the game. So that's good for him to put that on tape. Anything you want to worry about on the defensive end, like there being no sacks, Dono? Is that anything that made you a little bit nervous?
Yes, because we know we're going to be out without some of our most important pass rushers for periods of time. Bradley Chubb, I'm sure, longer than Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips, who's been cleared, but we'll see how slowly he comes along from that Achilles injury, and then we still need to see how big of an impact Chop Robinson can make as a rookie. He flashed a little bit last week, but it's still kind of unclear like how ready he's going to be able to go from week one. We do have Calais Campbell on the team now, which is nice, but you have to wonder, are the Dolphins going to be able to produce sacks at a high clip before Phillips is fully 100% and Bradley Chubb is back? Are they going to struggle to produce sacks? I try not to read too much into a single preseason game, but I mean, that pass rush is going to be super important for Miami, Dan, and I don't want to see these guys getting negated by offensive lines again in the regular season.
Yeah, and I do just want to say this. I wanted a little bit more out of Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara. I was watching both of them on the edge all night. They didn't seem to get a lot of penetration, I didn't think. Now, what does that
Yeah,
matter?
he had that Chop had that one tackle for a loss last week where he was basically unblocked. Other than that, we haven't really seen much.
Yeah, I kept waiting, being like, come on, and then nothing and nothing and nothing. So once again, it's the third game of preseason. We've heard good things about him. Is it something to be worried about? No. Would you have liked to seen maybe a little more excitement? Yes, but hey, look, now it's on to 2 weeks from Sunday, September 8th. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming into town. It is going to be Trevor Lawrence. It is going to be Tua Tagovailoa, and it's going to be all, for the most part, first stringers. It should be very, very exciting.
Oh, I can't wait for that. And that is Brendan Tobin going to be conflicted? Isn't he a Jaguars fan, or did he give up that allegiance completely? He realized he knows where the good guys are.
Nah, he's here. He's here with the Dolphins. It's
I
an
think
easy
so. I think
choice.
so too.
It'll
Well,
be
I had to bring him up because I don't know any other Jaguars fans. Like honestly, I don't know. I know a lot of Buccaneers fans, which is and I think the reason why that happened, Dan, was when the Buccaneers had those amazing defenses, Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and all those guys, late 90s, early 2000s. Like I know like a lot of kids that I grew up with in Miami who just became bandwagon Buccaneers fans, and they got that Super Bowl win in 02. So I know a lot of traitorous South Floridians who jumped on the Bucks bandwagon. So I know some Bucks fans. Outside of Brendan Tobin, who I don't even think is a Jaguars fan anymore, I've never met a Jaguars fan ever.
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them out there. No. And even like being an LSU guy, Leonard Fournette played there. And, everybody in South Louisiana loves Joe Burrow. They love the Cincinnati Bengals. Even when in South Louisiana, no Jags fans. No, we hope Leonard Fournette does good, but, we're not cheering for the Jags. So, man, we'll see. But it'll be an easy choice to cheer for following the game September 8th, because I have a feeling the Dolphins, they're favored by 3.5, might be a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I would think so. And man, I don't think I'm going to lock in my wager today. I'm going to wait till a little closer to the game. And man, this is an exciting time, Dan. Locking in week 1 bets pretty soon. Yeah. Fantasy football. I think I have a draft coming up at some point, but I don't know, man. I hope I didn't miss it and auto draft by mistake. But this is an exciting time of year, preparing for the return of the NFL. And are you going to be watching? Hopefully a Georgia Tech upset tomorrow against Florida State in Ireland.
Noon. It's going to be noon right here at the radio station.
Yeah.
I'll be here. We'll have a whole lot of excitement in Ireland and Dublin, Ireland. I know a lot of Florida State fans that have gone there. They're living the good life. I see it all on social media. Should be a lot of fun. But next, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look around the league, give you some scores and some stats from key players, see who balled out, who did not ball out. That is on Game Day Uncensored, Postgame with Alex Dono. I am Dan Day, 560 WQAM.
Summer's winding down, and we
an Odyssey sports station.
Powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.
Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Game Day Uncensored, post-game edition.
We keep rolling. Don't be stressed. I know what's online.
Recapping the Finns game. Real reaction, real opinions, real talk for real fans.
That sounds amazing.
On AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Game Day Uncensored is sponsored by South Florida Lexus Dealers. Experience amazing by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka on game day? Pour me in, coach. Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Make sure your next Cadillac is backed by Morse at Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac. Proud partner of the Miami Dolphins. By JM Lexus. At JM Lexus, you'll always get the home team advantage. And by Williamson Automotive. Williamson is Miami.
So the Dolphins fall to the Buccaneers 24-14. Baker Mayfield plays one series, drives the team down, scores a touchdown. Skylar Thompson accounted for the 2 touchdowns for the Miami Dolphins. They finished the preseason 2-1, getting ready September 8th, 2 weeks from Sunday at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had some other stats and facts that we wanted to get to last night. Did you watch any of the games, Alex Dono, that were in the NFL's slate for Thursday Night Football?
Yes, what did I watch last night? I watched a little bit of the Colts-Bengals game. That was last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that game. Don't know how it finished. I know how it started. And I did not watch any of Bears Chiefs. I know that was the other one last night. So I guess I went 1 for 2.
Right. The Colts did defeat the Bengals 27-14. Anthony Richardson looked good at times, did not look so good at times. 8 for 14, 86 yards, a touchdown, and he also threw a pick 6. So that was not one of his highlight moments right there.
I was never sold on him. I mean, this is a guy who was drafted purely based on physicality and athleticism, but that's not necessarily something you look at when you're drafting a quarterback. Like, I understand certain positions, like we were talking earlier about Patrick Paul, but to me, it's tougher. It's tougher with a quarterback. I'm just not sure if Anthony Richardson has all of the touch and some of the extra finer skills necessary to make it in this league.
Yeah, didn't play very much last year before getting injured. I think he played 4 games in the total. The Bengals, they're all in on Joe Burrow. They know if he stays healthy, they are dangerous. That's why yesterday, Logan Woodside was their sole quarterback. 16 for 21, 98 yards and a touchdown. So nothing too...
Toledo's finest, Logan Woodside. I remember that guy was he was a dangerous college quarterback back in the day.
Ooh, dangerous college quarterback. The Bears and the Chiefs did play yesterday, and no one really played for either of the teams. The Bears won 34-21. You know who's going to start for the Bears in the regular season, of course. He did not play yesterday. We're talking about the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. Brett Rippon played.
Yes,
we all know his pops won a Super Bowl with the Washington. Well, they were a different team back then, but the Commanders back in the day. Mark Rippon.
Yeah, Mark Rippon. I think we have an idea who's going to start for the Chiefs as well when the regular season begins. I think that's pretty safe to say. But going back to Caleb Williams with the Bears, that's an interesting one. I know he's so polarizing. Like, I feel like people want to rip that kid. I don't know if it's the USC thing or because he's got a stranger personality, but I think Caleb Williams has the stuff. Think about also, Dan, the last couple of years, USC's defense, they were turnstiles. Like, you're talking about sun pass lanes. I think the young man's going to be okay as long as they surround him with talent and play a little bit of complementary football.
Now, we already played the Falcons earlier in the preseason. We took care of them. We are going to be playing the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1. Those two teams faced off, if that means anything, and the Jaguars took the Falcons to the woodshed. 31-0. Have a Mac Jones sighting. Mac Jones for the Jaguars, 13 for 18, 113 yards and a touchdown.
Okay. I'll take that. He's trying that second act of his career. He's trying to resurrect what was a pretty awful start for him.
And the Falcons, I can't believe they didn't cut Taylor Heineke after that week 1 debacle that he had. But he was 8 for 17 with 81 yards. So that means anything to you. The Falcons are supposed to be decent this year. I don't believe it yet, but they're supposed to be decent. They haven't looked decent in the preseason. They're 0-3. Jaguars, though, once again, not really playing anybody. Trevor Lawrence did go 8 for 10, 92 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he did play. So he
He's in
kind of got
mid-season form already. We're in trouble.
Yeah, 8 for 10, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's pretty solid right there. And then his backup is Mac Jones. So, I don't know
Yeah.
about
You know what's more solid than 8 for 10? How about that 5 for 5 that Tua went last week?
And touchdown. Absolutely beautiful and perfect. And one more game is underway right now. The 49ers and the Las Vegas Raiders. 49ers up 17-7, and they're nearing halftime. Brock Purdy did play today. He went 9 for 12, 96 yards, 1 interception. George Kittle caught 3 passes for 34 yards. Those are the big names that are kind of getting it done today. Of course, Brandon Ayuk did not play. Deebo Samuel got a little bit of run in there. Seems like the 49ers doing their dress rehearsal, and those guys are going to be sitting on the bench for the rest of the game. Didn't look like the Raiders are really into this one. They don't really have anybody of note in the game. That's probably why San Francisco's got 17-7. But your Dolphins lose 24-14. Skylar Thompson did not play unbelievable, but he played much better than Mike White. That's basically all the way I can put it. I don't know. What else can you say, Dono?
If we're grading on the curve, it looks like Skylar Thompson should be your backup quarterback. We're gonna find out more about that. In fact, I don't know if Mike McDaniel has talked about that yet. I know he did praise Skylar.
And we're gonna hear from Mike McDaniel later in the show. So.
Okay, we'll hear it. Okay, I was like digging for quotes, but we're gonna hear of it. Something interesting that McDaniel did say. This is Omar Kelly quoted him on his timeline about Odell Beckham Jr.'s health. He says, "I'm not nervous about it. You hope, but you have to listen to people's bodies." He said he's found a way to be a leader without playing. So, and I'll be interested because I'm just reading a quote. When we hear from McDaniel later, I'd love to hear his tone, if it sounds like he's being completely sincere or if maybe he's covering for OBJ a little bit. I'm curious to get the tone on that.
Of course, we do want to hear from you. 305-567-056. You can call in. You can text in. You can also jump on the YouTube or Twitch. We are live on YouTube and Twitch. Just look for 560 WQAM. Some of them are rolling in right now. Starting off, Davy Jones Locker. He texted in, Mike White didn't look great. Okay, I can believe that.
I think that's the understatement of the day.
Menu goes on to say, don't let the door hit you on the way out, Mike White.
It's a little more blunt than the other one.
I don't know if you can justify keeping 3 quarterbacks this year. They did it last year, so maybe they will do it again this year. It's just that's a big roster spot, and for me, it's just kind of tough, like we said, because Mike White's making around $4 million, while Skylar Thompson's making around $1 million.
I mean, I feel like if you keep 3 quarterbacks now, it's just like you're just being too nice. It's like, oh, we don't want to cut anybody. It's like, okay, couldn't you use that roster spot maybe for something else a little bit more important than a 3rd quarterback that you're probably not going to use?
Yeah, neither of them, thank goodness, neither of them really saw the field last year for anything important. So,
well, I could understand like when they kept Skylar as a 3rd quarterback because he was developing guy, but if he's your 2nd quarterback now. If he's your 2nd quarterback, there's really no reason to keep Mike White as your 3rd.
Yeah, that's true. And a couple other people are asking, how did Chop Robinson do? Of course, our first round draft pick. It was a quiet night. Yeah. Once again, I was looking. They had Chop Robinson on one side. They had Muhammad Kamara on the other side, and I didn't really see them do much disruption tonight. But then again, they have shown flashes against the Commanders, so it's a preseason game. What can you say? I thought Patrick Paul on the offensive side, though, played the whole game. Looked like he knew what he was doing. Looked strong. Looked big. Looked athletic. I like that.
Yeah, for him, I think it's just more about developing some of the instincts and the finer techniques. Like we knew when Patrick Paul was drafted that he's a little bit more of a project. I mean, obviously, you were right to bring up, Dan, that sometimes the projects work out. That's what Austin Jackson was when the Dolphins drafted him. And then, by the way, Austin Jackson, I think, got just really, really fortunate for his growth when Mike McDaniel took over, because the blocking schemes just fit his physical attributes perfectly. And I can say the same thing for Patrick Paul. I think he's going to fit in nicely with this offensive scheme.
And like I said, he started off the game on the left side, and it looked like that kind of gave him a little fits. That's not his natural side. They moved him back to the right side, and he looked like fit him like a glove. He looked fantastic. And even Kim Bocamper was saying, he's like, man, he's just in position all the time. And I started
Yeah.
watching him, and I was like, wow, he was pushing guys down the field. And I mean, once again, it's guys that maybe are going to make the team, maybe aren't going to make the team, but nonetheless, to do that is encouraging.
You know, I will say that like I won't mind him doing more cross training on the left side, because I've just got this idea in my head, Dan, that at some point a year, 2 years from now, you know, Teron Armstead is probably only going to do this for another year, right? That when Teron Armstead, you know, moves on and retires, that Patrick Paul could become the heir apparent, but we've got to get him comfortable on the left side.
Right, and that's the thing we know, like last year, it could be musical chairs almost with the offensive line. So getting guys out of
Yeah.
position, getting more comfortable with other positions could be a positive. So 305-567-0560 is the number to call or text in. Let us know how you're feeling about this Dolphins loss. I don't think anyone's heartbroken right now because unless you're a huge Mike White fan, but we can go to the phone lines. Let's go 305-567-0560. Hello, you're on 560 WQAM. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Cap for Life. Can I talk to Dan Day, please, and Donald?
Yeah, Cap.
Cap for life. I love this dude. How you doing, man?
Am I live?
Yes.
Oh, crap. You put me on the spot. Okay. Listen to me, okay? I need you to listen to me, bro, okay? If we're going to be fair, like Uno says, in this season that's coming up, and we're going to put accountability as opposed to last season was what? Opportunity. And right now, we're being force-fed that if players aren't going to contribute, they're going to be called out. Is that what we heard this past couple of weeks, correct? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Am I making
Yes.
stuff up?
That's correct.
Okay, so with that being said, what has Mike White, and don't get me wrong, I mean, these guys, they've been here for a while, so I'm not trying to, kick them while they're down, but let's just be real here, man. Like, we've seen this team the past 4 years, and from what I've seen right now is a backup quarterback situation going on down here. Do you really think it's warranted for that type of scenario to come out where a player says we're going to keep other guys held accountable on their productivity this upcoming season, but Mike White hasn't shown anything, Braxton Berrios hasn't shown anything, Washington has taken over the special teams duties as far as I'm concerned. So for you guys to tell me OBJ hasn't played all preseason, but he's already guaranteed a spot due to the contract, which that right there just throws out the whole accountability aspect out the window because he's going to get a roster spot without even playing. I'm just worried that we're going to have a trend where guys that haven't even done anything are going to be entitled to spots on a team that's playing in a Super Bowl window year. And I'm just afraid that people that are golf buddies are going to end up making the team as opposed to guys who are working and busting their butt.
All right, Cap, thank you so much for that. Yeah, the accountability thing is an issue, but at the same time, these coaches do know things that we don't know. I am not going to be surprised if Mike White does, for some reason, get cut. I would also not be surprised if he stays on the team. I think they are holding him accountable. And I do think that some of these guys like OBJ and Mike White need to be a little careful. And they need to be worried because this is the type of team that now we're seeing is willing to come after you and willing. They don't have the same, timeline. It looks like they're all in this year. So I do think they're going to hold them somewhat accountable. No one has guaranteed OBJ anything. He could possibly, if he doesn't act right, they could cut him. Dono, though, I feel as though these coaches, with guys like Braxton Berrios, we've talked about this, they do know maybe more than we know for those guys, not just because of what we saw today in a preseason game.
Yeah, it was a hell of a point by Cap on that call, but the other side of that is though that when you're talking about being in that Super Bowl window, at the end of the day, if Mike McDaniel, I hope they both make the team, but if Mike McDaniel is forced to make a decision of, do I trust Braxton Berrios more, or do I trust Malik Washington, who hasn't really proven anything in the NFL, then unfortunately, more goes into this than just a few preseason games and maybe some practices. That at the end of the day, sometimes these veterans, even if they may not be doing it in preseason and may not be available at this moment, and again, I don't know what the actual health prognosis is on OBJ. If it's worse than they're letting on, you may be forced to make a different decision. But if they're under the assumption he's going to be good to go for the regular season or for most of it, then you would understand why they would trust a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., who is He's won a Super Bowl before and was, he was a contributing factor on that Rams team. And he's not in his prime anymore, but he can still contribute. So, but I love the point, because what Cap is bringing up is you want this to be a meritocracy. Like, you want hungry players to earn it, but then you also have the reality of, yeah, you're a team that is trying to win now. And when the coach is staring down his roster and trying to make those decisions on who makes the final 53, sometimes it's hard to cut a proven veteran, just because maybe they didn't have as good of a preseason as some of these young, hungry guys. It's a tough
These
choice.
coaches they know what they're doing, and we're going to have to trust in them, because at the end of the day, it's their job that's on the line also. So hopefully there is some accountability, but hopefully at the same time, they know a little more than we do, or a little more than our eye test gives us for a lot of that. So what we do know is we watched the game tonight, we took notes, and we're going to give our JM Lexus Player of the Game next. Alex Dono, Dan Day. This is Game Day Uncensored post game here on 560 WQAM.
This hurricane season, keep it on AM 560 Sports WQAM.
WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
Back on Game Day Uncensored post-game edition, I am Dan Day along with Alex Dono. Going to be taking you up to about 12:30, giving you all the analysis. Uncensored. We're not employed by the Dolphins, so we don't have to hold back how we feel. We're going to let you know.
Sure don't.
I'm definitely not getting that Dolphins money, so I'm more than happy to just kind of share what we feel. But right now, let's share our JM Lexus player of the game. Time for that JM Lexus player of the game. At JM Lexus, it's the perfect time to catch a deal you've been waiting for. As the Golden Opportunity sales event continues, don't miss your opportunity to score even more now at JM Lexus. And now, Alex Dono, tell me your JM Lexus player of the game.
I go Channing Tindall. You know, I know that a lot of times with these players of the game, we're tempted to go with an offensive guy. It's a little flashier, but I thought, honestly, top to bottom, Channing Tindall, I thought showed me more individually than any other player on that field. It's the draft pick from a year ago at linebacker, had 12 tackles tonight, 6 of those solo, had a quarterback hit on the day. Tindall was all over the field, and Mike McDaniel even talked after the game about just like how proud he was and how happy he was for Tindall, because that's the type of performance that I hope is only the tip of the iceberg for how good this guy can be.
Yeah, and he's had a pretty good preseason, too, from what we've seen on TV. He's a third-round pick from a couple of years ago, played at the University of Georgia, some national championships. He's got it in him. It just seems like he hadn't been able to put it together yet. He's been a special teams player. Maybe this is the year that he makes the jump from being a special teams guy and barely on the roster to making some contributions. So I do like that pick. I thought he was my defensive player of the game. I was very excited to see him all over the field just making plays. I'm going to give it to the Badger, Hayden Rucci, tight end. 5 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. And if you're saying, okay, well, that's nice, a touchdown. The Dolphins did not have a tight end catch a touchdown or score a touchdown last season. And it was a nice catch right over the middle.
It was.
Skylar Thompson, between two guys, defenders, took the hit, leaned into the end zone. I was very happy for Hayden Rucci. Not a lot of guys went for tight end tonight. Not a lot of guys dressed. He got his chance, and I thought he made the most of it.
And that was a little bit of a gunslinger throw from Skylar, too. Like, you thought, like, when I was watching it live, I'm like, interception? No, he got it. It was like, oh, man, he threaded the needle for better or for worse. I don't know if I want him taking risks like that every single game, but that one got there.
You and I have brought this up, too, about Skylar Thompson. He has outplayed Mike White, at least from what we've seen and from what we're hearing. And honestly, the way that they've played him, letting Skylar Thompson start the first 2 games, or not start the first 2 games, start the first game, get the major reps in the second game, and then this game comes in, kind of leads the charge, comes in at an odd time. Maybe they put him in because Mike White wouldn't be ineffective. But it goes back to this. What if you only need Mike White or you need Skylar Thompson for 1 game? We know Mike White will be very steady. He's not going to cause a lot of trouble. He might not have a high ceiling, but Skylar Thompson can throw the ball over the place, and sometimes it goes into your guy's hand, sometimes it goes in the other guy's hand. Maybe that's one of those things that maybe keeps Mike White on this team, is that he's maybe more of a steady hand if you only need him for a game, and he's not going to put you in as much danger as Skylar Thompson.
But here's the thing, like, to win in this league, you've got to have a quarterback who can make plays. Right. And I know it's easy to say, hey, bring in somebody who can manage it and maybe take care of the football. But I mean, he got all these weapons. I don't know. I mean, maybe some would feel like, and of course, we haven't seen Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle or Odell Beckham in preseason. So maybe some would feel that if these guys were out there, they could really help elevate Mike White. But then, what did White do last week without those guys? And then Tua's in the game for a series without any of those top weapons. He still goes 5 for 5 and throws a touchdown. So at least, like, you see your starter can actually elevate the talent in the receiving core, even if the top guys aren't out there. We haven't seen it from the backup. So a little bit from Skylar tonight, certainly not in this preseason from Mike White. So I don't know. I still feel like in order, even if you need a spot starter for a game or two, they've still got to be able to make some plays. They still have to go out there and make things happen.
And like I said, Skylar Thompson has been at points, and a little bit tonight, inconsistent at points, but it just seems like it moves better and things are just working better and they're scoring with Skylar Thompson. He got the 2 touchdowns tonight. With Mike White, like I said, he was checking things down. He didn't really have great numbers. He offered Malik Washington up to the DBs where Malik Washington got nailed. And that's not the first time he's done that this preseason. He's done it a couple of different times. And like I said, yes, they don't want to show too much. And yes, maybe he's not throwing to the most talented receiving core or running backs, but there have been some throws that are extremely dangerous and questionable from Mike White, more so than Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, and so I'm fully of the expectation that when a backup quarterback is announced, that Skylar Thompson's going to be that guy. I think he's earned it. I think he's earned it this preseason and training camp.
Yes. So now the question remains, what's going to happen with Mike White? Are they going to keep a third quarterback? Are they going to say, we got enough with the backup quarterback, and if we ever need a third quarterback, well, we'll just go out there and pick somebody up off the waiver wire, or as they say, off the couch. It's really going to be some tough couple of days, I would say, for Mike White coming up because Tuesday is the day where they must trim down the roster to the 53-man roster. So it's going to be interesting to see. But some of the other guys tonight, you got to be happy for guys like Malik Washington, whether he makes the team or not. He really put some good tape out there that made you happy. Hayden Rucci, who I gave my game ball to from JM Lexus, player of the game. He probably not going to make the team, but maybe now you see what he can do. You make a practice team. So even though sometimes you might get the cut, you also may have opened up other doors. So I'm excited for some guys like that.
Yeah, and I think guys who are on the fringe like that, they understand that they're fighting for a job somewhere, right? It may not be here, but you're trying to put some stuff on tape and you're trying to create opportunities for yourself somewhere. Hopefully in America, not in Canada. I don't want to see any of these guys in the CFL up there in that loser country. Let's keep them in the States. But yeah, hopefully Hayden Rucci plays himself into a job somewhere.
And Kyrick McGowan, he also wasn't exactly dynamic on the returns, I thought, but he started making some big catches, and he made a very nice catch in the end zone. So that hopefully gets him onto a practice squad or gets him onto a team. And if not, that gives him one more touchdown in the NFL than you and I have, Dono, combined.
Yeah, and overall, I'm more or less content with preseason, except I wish we could have seen at least a few reps from the stud wide receivers. Some of them need it more than others. Obviously, like I don't think Tyreek Hill really needs preseason at this point. Jalen Waddle, he also missed the full preseason last year because he was coming off an injury, and I remember him saying last year that he kind of wished he could get some preseason reps because it's like you're going from 0 to 60 if you don't play until the regular season, but he still ended up having 1,000-yard season last year. So he did all right despite not getting the preseason reps. So just as a fan, I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of that. But then the flip side, Dan, would have been, if these guys don't really need the preseason work, why risk injury? So I get that part of it as well. But I'm glad Tua got a little bit of work in.
And we know Tyreek Hill's kind of dealing with a little bit of a thumb and a hand issue. They say it's not a big deal, but Tyreek Hill's one of those guys. You're so confident that he can go in, play game one, no problems. He doesn't need to get that extra run. He doesn't need the preseason. He doesn't need the game speed. He's going to be totally fine. You would like to see Odell Beckham Jr. do some stuff. Now, I said last week, I'm not worried yet. I'm not hitting the panic button. My people from LSU and Louisiana said that he's robbing us blind. And I said, no, he's not. He's not. If it gets to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and he's still on the PUP list, I'm going to start to not hit the panic button, but I'm going to start sweating a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little concerning, last week or about a week and a half ago when Tua was asked about, like, are you kind of, building some chemistry with OBJ? Look, you guys doing throwing sessions, and like Tua had to admit, like, I don't really know because the guy can't run routes right now. So it's like he's only thrown to him stationary so that OBJ could kind of get a sense, probably with the whole lefty thing, like how the ball spins with Tua. But like if the guy can't run routes right now, then you're not really getting any meaningful work in on the practice field or in off scheduled workouts. Like there's not really much you can do. So whenever OBJ plays, it's going to be like he and Tua are meeting for the first time is what that's going to be like.
Yeah. And here's what worries me about it a lot too, is that a lot of people keep asking the question, and they're asking the question because if the guys would be answering Tua, and Mike McDaniel for the most part has kind of kept the party line, but should be going, stop asking that. He's fine. We're ramping him up. It's all good. They're not going over and above to say, oh, everything's fine. Stop being like that. Everything's going to be good. They're kind of doing one of these like, oh, I haven't really been bragging. And that doesn't give me a lot of confidence because it starts to be like, where there's a little bit of smoke, there could be a little bit of fire. You would love for everyone that they ask just to say, no, it's fine. It's going according to plan. Everything's fine. You don't get that. You get, he's not running routes and we haven't seen much. And I guess we're still on schedule. It's like, that doesn't instill the confidence in me that I want to hear. That's one of those things. And, Odell Beckham Jr., he's got a history of kind of acting up and acting out. It makes me a little bit nervous now. But if he gets back off the PUP list this week, midweek, I'm going to be okay. If not, I'm going to start sweating a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. But, I get the whole veteran thing and the whole listening to the body thing because they're so, you know, that's just such an emphasis in the NFL. And I give Mike McDaniel credit. Like outside of, I didn't obviously in hindsight, 2 years ago, they didn't really manage Tua's concussion situation very well when they put him back out there in that Cincinnati game. But overall, they probably learned a lesson from that. Such an abundance of caution because what McDaniel said about OBJ last week was, we want to make sure when this guy get outs there on the grass that it's not the last time, like that he doesn't suffer any sort of a setback. So they're being incredibly careful with his recovery. But at the same time, Dan, like we're up against the clock now.
Yeah.
Like we don't have a long way to go until the games count.
We need to know what we're getting. So we know we're 2 weeks away basically from week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Alex Dono, I am Dan Day. We're going to hear from Mike McDaniel in just a little while. We'll continue to react to this preseason game 3 and look forward to week 1 here on Game Day Uncensored 560 WQAM.
Our goal at Hollywood Kia is to be number 1 by making your car buying experience the
WQAM. Just download the free Odyssey app to listen to all of our shows live or on demand. Plus, there's the cool Rewind feature where you can listen to any part of any show you might have missed anytime. Get it now and make WQAM your favorite station.
Time for more Game Day Uncensored, Postgame Edition on AM 560 Sports, WQAM, FM 99.9 HD2, and always live on the free Odyssey app.
Sponsored by South Florida Lexus dealers, Tito's Handmade Vodka, Edmore Sawgrass Cadillac, JM Lexus, and Williamson Automotive.
So the Dolphins, they do fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, cross-state rivals, 24-14. Baker Mayfield comes in on that first drive, shows you all you need to show. He gets that touchdown. He was 3 for 3, 54 yards, threw a beautiful pass that thought maybe it was incomplete. They challenged it. It was considered complete. They get up early.
I think it was a catch.
It was a catch. Oh, it was definitely a catch.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, they challenge everything in the preseason. They don't care, you know.
And also, like Mike McDaniel, he's already in regular season form with his challenges. He is not good with the challenge flag.
No.
So it's almost gotten to a point where when Coach McDaniel throws the flag out there, I'm thinking whatever he's throwing out there, they will call the opposite.
Yeah, that was one of those things. He was quick with it too, man. He was slow with it. He was actually very slow with it. They almost didn't. They had to actually go back and they're like, well, since it's preseason, we'll go
why not?
Was in the regular season. Good thing it didn't get challenged, but nonetheless, Mike White 5 for 9, 37 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Also left Malik Washington out to dry one day. Malik Washington kind of got banged up.
That was hard to watch. I'm so glad Malik was okay because that looked bad in the moment. He got crushed.
Skylar Thompson comes in towards the end of the second quarter, goes 19 for 27, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. In the next segment, we're going to hear from Mike McDaniel what he had to say about Skylar Thompson, Mike White, and the game, but we're going to continue to react to everything that's going on. I wanted to ask you this, Dono, because I've been trying to figure it out. I know the NFL is so much different today than it was back when we were younger, and we know that preseason used to be 4 games, now it's 3 games, and it's only a matter of time before it's 2 games. Seems like when I was a kid, and maybe I was just young and impressionable, I thought preseason meant more. Like guys played more, it counted more. These guys, now it seems like preseason games are just kind of not a formality, but they just don't hold as much weight. It's the joint practice and the games kind of combined.
Well, like for example, starting quarterbacks used to get action in at least 3 out of 4 preseason games. And in the third preseason game, 3rd out of 4, which used to be the dress rehearsal, it used to be common, like in the 90s, early 2000s, at the most recent, when starting quarterback would play about 3 quarters in the dress rehearsal game. Yeah, now you're lucky if they play 3 drives all preseason. But they used to play like 3. Like I remember that back in the day, like your starter, Marino. Jay Fiedler, he's going to be out there for about 3 quarters in the 3rd preseason game, and they're going to play a little bit the first 2 games, probably not at all in the 4th preseason. That's usually when the starters would all sit, would be the 4th preseason game. But yeah, I mean, you had starters out there for a lot longer. I think they probably were a little bit more physical in preseason back then. Yeah, that I can't remember for sure, but I do remember like it was common for starters, including starting quarterbacks, to play in the first 3 preseason games and to play past halftime in the 3rd one.
Okay, because what I used to remember is the first preseason game, your starting quarterback and your starters, all of them would play at least 1 or 2 series. Yeah. Second game, they would play the first quarter. 3rd game, the dress rehearsal, they play the first half. And then the 4th game, nobody would play. Yeah. But nowadays, it's going to be even less and less whenever they get down to 2 games, because we know the NFL is going to go to 18 games. It's not they don't even play around and make it a secret. They're just trying to figure out when and where they're going to do it at. That means 2 preseason games. You think they're going to be rolling anybody out for preseason games? And it seems like now players might be a little more empowered. Like back then, coach says you play. Now you think you can go to Aaron Rodgers and be like, or we think Robert Saleh goes, you're playing today. Just laughs in his face.
I don't know. Gosh, it's like I still feel like at least getting a couple series, I still feel like would be useful in the preseason. Even but then again, it's like 18 regular season games. You'd probably like you would need to make some concessions to your players where it's like, yeah, we want you to, because obviously you had an extra regular season game. It's a lot more strenuous than a third preseason game. So I don't know. Maybe they'll make concessions to the point where preseason will just become, the guys fighting for the 53rd roster spot. Is that all we're going to see? I don't know.
But you have to look at this. The Dolphins last year at the end of the season decimated by injuries. Do you want them going out there and putting tread on the tire in a couple of meaningless games?
Here's the other thing, though. Like the old school NFL guys, and maybe this is more bro science than science, but the old school NFL guys would say one of the reasons why there's so many more injuries is actually because they don't play enough in the preseason and they don't tackle enough in practice, so their bodies aren't ready for it when you just have to go week one, and play 17 games without really preparing yourself for that in the preseason. So again, I don't know if the science is solid behind that, but these old timers, like a lot of them seem to think that if there was actually more hitting and more preseason work, that these guys would actually be better conditioned to be durable during the season.
You actually do bring up a good point, because they were talking to fullback Alec Ingold during the second quarter, Goldie and Kim Bocamper, and he says your body has to build up a callus as the season goes on. And I find that interesting now that you're saying that, yeah, you do have to go out there, you have to take some hits, your body has to know how to deal with it. Maybe there is something to that. Maybe in this day and age where everyone's bigger, faster, stronger, but not as physical, that their body isn't as tough, which is, could be very interesting. It's just,
but then also like, cause I'm thinking this through in my head. Also, the strength and the speed of these athletes, they're only getting faster and stronger than they were 20, 30 years ago. So that's another thing. It's like, the 40 times that these guys are running nowadays at the size of some of these guys, it's like maybe that has more to do with the increased injuries than anything else.
It is absolutely unbelievable. One thing that has been a very positive note for the Dolphins is offensive lineman Patrick Paul out of the University of Houston, the 2nd round pick. He's looked strong, and he's also looked like he has some pretty good endurance. He hasn't looked winded or like he's, just gassed. He might be taking IVs after all the games, but he hasn't ever looked like, oh, he's just gassed, get him out of there. He seems like he's playing every play pretty much on offense, and he's holding his own.
I love the way he gets down the field and just mauls people. Like he never gives up on his blocks, and that's one of those things you can't really teach. Like you can't really teach that sort of persistence and perseverance from offensive linemen. I mean, you could try to instruct it, but this guy he seems to really love football, which is always a quality you want to have.
That's my biggest takeaway from what he does is he completes and finishes his blocks. Like he's blocking, and then he goes down the field and continues to block and doesn't let people out. Like he stays on his blocks. He doesn't just hold people up or, push people out of the way. He finishes the blocks. And that to me is very encouraging, because like you said, you heard physically dominant, but a big time project, getting better though. It seems like, wow, man, how bad was he and how much better has he gotten over the past couple of weeks? Because I know he's going against guys that are second, third, maybe practice squad guys, but he's looked the part. He's looked the part.
Yeah, he has. And he's all runway team. Like I think we knew as soon as he arrived that he looks like he's going to be a player at this level, and I'm glad to see him proving it on the field so far. And I wonder how much action he's going to get on Sundays, or how much he might need to, depending on the health of the offensive line this year. But whatever he may be lacking in the polish, if we call him a project, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
And of course, we liked what we see from running back out of Tennessee, Jalen Wright. He is a rookie. He's fast. He's strong. He's smooth. Like I said, I was skeptical because I thought that from everything I heard, he's a carbon copy of Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. And I'm like, well, then why do we need a third one of him? He has looked physical. He has looked great. He has looked strong. He has looked like an NFL running back, another weapon for Mike McDaniel. And, it's one of those things. I said it when they drafted him. Why are we getting a guy just like that? I have to trust in these guys that they moved up in the 4th round to get him, that they must have seen something they liked or something they could use. I'm going to have to believe in them right now until I'm proven otherwise. And I was right. So far, they proved me wrong. Like they obviously saw something, and I like what I see from Jalen Wright. I think he is going to actually be a contributor this year on the team.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with the rookie class and some of the low cost signings that Chris Greer made. I think that honestly, and I I've questioned Greer in the past. I guess everybody has. He's been in charge for so long. I mean, he's given us at times reasons to question him, but I really think he's found a way to make this roster deeper, despite the fact that they were in a tough salary cap conundrum coming off of last year, and you had to say goodbye to somebody like Christian Wilkins. But I think Chris Greer actually managed to, in very cost cutting friendly ways, he's actually been able to make this team deeper. I think that's a testament to a good GM.
Yeah, you got to lose a guy like Christian Wilkins. We're going to be keeping an eye on him, see what he does with the Raiders. Xavier Howard, he is not with the team right now. Had to cut him, kind of save some money. But I was going to talk about the other rookies that didn't exactly shine tonight. First round pick, Chop Robinson, 5th round pick, Mo Kamara. We're hearing that they're going to be very good. They're going to be edge rushers. They're going to hold down the fort until Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, whenever that may be, get back. Tonight, they look very, very normal.
I mean, I think if you look at the big picture, they've both practiced well, and that I think that counts for a lot. That there's and this is something we were talking about earlier, that there's a much bigger tapestry than just what we get to watch on national TV or local TV, I guess, during these preseason games. And I think the fact that Chop at times has been the story of training camp for the Dolphins this year, and Kamara is somebody who's gotten good reviews. I'm still optimistic for what they're going to bring to the table this year.
I don't want to scare you, and I don't hope I'm not scaring anybody, but did they look a little undersized to you?
They look like they got pushed around a little bit. I will give you that. I think that these are more motor type of guys than pure sheer power type of guys.
Yeah, that is what they said about Chop Robinson, that he is a technique type of guy that has a motor that can do, and he did at one point come off a block, off a screen, and make a tackle downfield. So he did show some mobility and a little bit of, what would you call it, wherewithal. But at
range,
the same time, range, a lot of range. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to get right out of them. And plus, they're rookies. So if they do look maybe a little undersized or they got pushed around, that's what rookies do sometimes, man. They're trying to figure it out, and that's why you have these preseason games and you have these joint practices, and now you're going to have 2 weeks to kind of figure it all out. So let's not worry too much about that. I think they're going to do a fine job in the meantime before we get Bradley Chubb back and Jalen Phillips, and then they will continue to grow. Oof. Oh, I know. How is Jalen Phillips getting back so soon? I mean, not that he's back yet, but how has he been able to heal and recover so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, not every human was created equally. When I'm sure if I suffered a similar injury, I'd be on the shelf for about 6 years.
Yeah, forever.
For him, it was more like 6 months. As soon as about a month ago, when that video he put out of doing that footwork drill on the ladder, where he looked like a Greek statue.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I think he's going to be all right this year. I think he's going to be a very quick healer.
No question. If he stays healthy, he is going to be someone you're going to have to contend with for a very long time with this Miami Dolphins team. We just hope, just don't rush him back. Get him back when he's ready.
Yeah, especially because like he's dealt with a lot of adversity. Like his first couple years in college, like he was a number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school, got to UCLA, but first couple years of his career were first 3 years, I think, completely derailed by injuries, a lot of really unlucky stuff. He ended up transferring to Miami, and when he transferred to Miami, the UCLA fans were like, "Oh, this guy's a bust, good riddance." But then he gets to South Florida, and he's finally able to get healthy again, completely revived his career all the way to it's a great story, really. I mean, carved himself into a mid first round draft pick, which is unbelievable given how he started his career at UCLA. So he's already been through these battles. He's already showed this sort of perseverance. And so that this guy probably learned a lot about his body and how to rehab properly, given what he's gone through. But then knowing what he's gone through throughout his career, you definitely don't want to rush him back too quickly. Because again, like and he's obviously, he seems like a quicker healer than Odell Beckham Jr. does right now. But you don't want to rush Jalen Phillips back, even if you have to kind of protect him from himself.
We're excited to see him and all of our guys back in the lineup, hopefully sooner than later. But Absolutely, when they're ready. We're also eager to hear from Mike McDaniel. We're going to hear from him next. And to wrap up the show, for Alex Dono, I am Dan Day. This is Game Day Uncensored Postgame on 560 WQAM.
Text WQAM on the Kendall Toyota.
By JM Lexus. At JM Lexus, you'll always get the home team advantage. And by Williamson Automotive. Williamson is Miami.
So, biggest takeaway from game 3 of the preseason, not that the Dolphins lost 24-14 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's that quarterback 2 competition seems to be a little more clear. And Alex Dono, it's pretty clear that Skylar Thompson is going to be quarterback 2, at least in our opinion. Don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Don't know what Mike McDaniel and those guys are thinking, but it seems like as far as the play has been concerned, it is one Skylar Thompson that's going to be QB2.
Yeah, that was probably my single biggest takeaway from the game, and it feels a little weird saying that because it's like backup quarterback, but it is an important job. Thankfully last year Tua made it through 17 games completely healthy. We hope that happens this year, but if something happens, you need to have a steady backup. And both of these guys have taken their lumps throughout preseason. I'm not going to say it's been smooth sailing, but I think it's been pretty clear that Skylar's been a notch above. Like, he's been a notch above Mike White, and it was most glaring tonight. The offense moved when Skylar was out there, wasn't moving when Mike White was out there. And I think McDaniel is probably also, I can't say probably, I think he is also very proud of the way that Skylar has developed within the Dolphins organization. This is the team that drafted him. And so I think all that tells me Skylar Thompson is likely to be the number 2 quarterback, despite Mike White having more experience.
Right. And you got to look at it this way too. Also, Mike White was just in the program last year. Skylar Thompson is now, this is going into his 3rd year. So he's got an extra year. He was brought in as a rookie, so this is the system that he was all he really knows as a professional. And for those that sit there and say, what does it matter? Backup quarterbacks, if you have to go to them, your season is thrown away. Well, that's not so true. Guys like Joe Flacco have come in the past. Jeff Hofstetler, not that I want to go all the way back to the New York Giants.
Tom Brady was a backup quarterback before he became the GOAT.
So if you're sitting there saying, oh, no, your season's totally dead, that is not totally true. Sometimes you might only need one game, and that one game could make a huge difference. So to say that, it doesn't matter, the season's over if you lose your starting quarterback for a game or for a long period of time, that's not always exactly true. But right now, it doesn't look very promising if Tua were to get injured or have to miss a game for whatever reason, or 2 or 3, because neither Skylar Thompson or Mike White has played great this preseason. Nonetheless, it does look like Skylar Thompson, at least from what we've seen, has outplayed Mike White.
I mean, we're only about 2 weeks removed from less than that of people talking about Ryan Tannehill again in this town, with him being available. After that, the first preseason game, especially against Atlanta, neither White or Thompson looked good at all in that game. And that's when people were thinking, hey, maybe it's time for a Tannehill reunion. Bring him back in as a backup, steady hand, grizzled veteran. I just don't think Tannehill's a good fit for this offense. Like, honestly, that's saying just in a vacuum, I wouldn't be like opposed to bringing Tannehill back, knowing he's a backup quarterback. But then at the same time, he's got more experience than either of these guys. But Tannehill doesn't have a quick release. He's not a good Tua understudy. Holds on to the ball way too long. This is not the offense for Ryan Tannehill.
All I know is we've got either Mike White or we've got Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson played much better tonight than Mike White. Mike McDaniel, of course, right when he gets to the press room, the first questions he asked is about quarterback 2, and especially about Skylar Thompson.
I think Skylar did a great job tonight. I think in terms of, we have a lot of information to take in. I'm not in any position to name 53-man rosters and or backup quarterbacks or anything. I thought that he was competitive and it was made some plays. And kind of got us going tonight.
What's the growth that you've seen over the course of the past season?
So with Skylar, he got the opportunity to play early in his career, and I thought as a rookie, he demonstrated some aggressiveness and ability to make plays in this league. And then it's been about, since then, training his craft, really owning the quarterback position within the offense. And I thought this preseason, he's exhibited growth in what that means. That means you are the leader of the unit, that you have to orchestrate play calls, decision making, all of those things. And I thought he took a good step forward tonight. Oh, aggressiveness. He played as though the game was slow to him. It slowed down and was able to get in some space. And I think we hadn't gotten the chance to see his something that we saw in college from him that he put on display tonight, which is his balance and his ability to break tackles and get edges of defenders. So it was cool for him. It was a definitely big spark for us, and was happy to see him really own the moment. And he's a football player, and I could tell pregame he was ready to go by him saying it's time. So. I think that's something that I've been specifically with this past joint practice, and kind of counterbalancing the work that we did a year ago against Atlanta versus what we did this year. I've been very happy with their technical development. Really, both groups have had a ton of development. There's more depth than I think people really appreciate, and there's a lot of technical growth, which is huge in both phases or on both sides of the ball for what we do. We ask guys to be technicians and to commit to certain techniques that other players are depending on and trying to play off of. So I thought it's been a really good training camp for both of those units, specifically interior. I'm very happy with this group. But we're all, those are things that Chris and I will talk about across the board, just because we're always open-minded to what makes the Dolphins the best. So I'm way far away from even knowing what the 53 will look like in terms of, you have to watch the tape and sit down with all your coaching staff and Chris and his department and iron those things out, because there's a lot of tough competitions. But we'll be like we are every year, trying to see if things make sense. Sometimes you have discussions that don't go through. Sometimes you have no discussions. It just depends on how the overall complexion and getting some of the health back from these guys that played tonight, and assessing all of that. Yeah, I thought there was he faced some challenging situations. I thought there was he did a good job getting the team in and out of the huddle and played clean in that way. I think there was some opportunities. I'll have to look at tape that that he was in there with against their starters and competed and did some things that I was happy with, that we've been emphasizing. But before being able to say that the extent to which both guys completely played, I'll have to watch the tape first. I would say at this point, what I do know, it's not longer than week to week, but it could be more expeditious. They're just a little recent. He had a good, really good workout today, and he's that he was excited about. I would say it would be about day to day at this point now. Aaron Brewer, nothing's really changed with that. Feel pretty good about it, but don't know concrete. I think that's why it was important tonight. For us to, we feel really good about where Rob Jones and Lester Cotton had been at, and they just tried to get him some game experience. And, really that was an earned opportunity to be in a jersey and not pads by Liam. It was more of a reaction to what he's been doing day in, day out. And he's probably had as good of a camp as anybody, and really put together some good practices.
I wanted to ask you about Benito Jones. We haven't seen him in 3 weeks. Physically speaking, is he going to be healthy enough to begin the season?
It's hard to forecast week one for a lot of the guys, specifically because in the last couple days, such major focus goes to all these huge opportunities for a lot of guys. So as of right now, I'm not nervous about it at all. It is, but I think I also need to sit down and kind of wrap my head around some of those guys, including Benito, because it's just so important to me to really invest in, and be 100% present with the guys that are completing our roster. This is a really, really cool game for me in terms of watching some of these guys compete and get a good amount of tape out there, so for us to really, really digest, and for all the other 31 teams to digest. So they'll all have information coming on a lot of those guys here soon. No, yeah, just talking to him on the field, he felt like it wasn't serious. Him talking to me, he's not a doctor. We have to get imaging and stuff, but he seemed like there was just no reason to go ahead and stress a guy that just got a ding. So we'll be evaluating that here shortly. Man, what a cool game for Channing. So much growth. This is his third year and third defensive system, so you're always nervous about that when you sign up for it. And he's really, I can't say enough about the job that both Joe Barry have done, and Anthony Weaver just in general with the position. I feel like that's a position of strength, and a case in point. I think that Channing Tindall, I don't know this to be fact, but I think that would be his high of preseason tackles. And I think that's just another example of the good stuff that we got going on that defensive side of the ball. Yeah, and I'm hopeful about a lot of things. Again, I'm not like nervous about it, but you hope, but you have to listen to people's bodies and be very communicative. I know he's feeling very optimistic about how things are developing, but you just take it one day at a time. And like I said before, I'm not in a position of nervousness because of the way that he's been involved. He's found a way to be a leader of sorts without playing. That's tough to do, but his mindset's right, and so I feel good about that. Well, Jalen Ramsey was able to get some reps this week, the practice before the joint practice, and And so I feel very good about that. We didn't practice him in the joint practice because coming off an injury, I just know too much about my personnel he's already a competitor, and thankfully he's such a good teammate and such a good leader that when he goes against our offense, he's as he manages his competitiveness as much as one can. He himself knows that another colored jersey goes against him. He might step out of the comfort zone. So I feel with getting him some reps, I feel pretty good about him, and he's done a good job, and no concerns with him. Yeah, I think it was important to me to, I was trying to get better at things, and this is my third year, and we haven't ever gone through that exercise. And, bottom line is, it's still too soon for my memory from the COVID year. So you just don't want to, you want to be responsible to the organization. And then as far as John Embry, the coach, it was also really cool to give him that opportunity that I think he's overly deserving of. This is a guy that our team really responds to. He had applause when I notified the team, and spoke to the team in several instances since then. And their response to him is all the reason that he was deserving of the opportunity. So, he's a great leader of men and does very well in those positions, and he's had that experience before at the University of Colorado. So it was a good opportunity for our team and a great opportunity for him.
So that's Mike McDaniel post-game press conference, basically saying he can't really assess Mike White and Skylar Thompson until he looks at the tape. Channing Tindall had a great defensive night. And we forgot to mention that John Embry coached the second half of the game, just in case Mike McDaniel ever can't be there.
That's important to have the understudy for the coach as well.
Yeah, it looked fun. It looked cool. I enjoyed it. It looked like the guys were having a lot of fun. That was one thing they were pointing out, that these guys really do cheer for each other, and there's a lot of mentoring going on. And that's a good thing to see on the sidelines, that these guys are taking each other in and really celebrating each other and pulling for each other. And it seems like they're a very close-knit unit.
Yeah, close-knit unit indeed. And, man, I'm so excited for the regular season coming up, Dan. I mean, we're getting there. We're getting there, man.
2 weeks from Sunday, September 8th, it is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to town. It is a 1:00 kickoff. But now, Dono, your focus shifts from the Dolphins to the Canes. What you got going on? Break it all down for us.
I have got a full week of Locked On Canes coming up. That's first and foremost. I am going to be doing a crossover episode in Gainesville with Brandon Olson, who hosts Locked On Gators. So we're going to be giving him a hard time this week. But yeah, all this week on Locked On Canes before we actually head out to Gainesville for the game. And I will be there as a credentialed member of the media on the Miami side. I'm looking forward to breaking down the matchups, to trying to talk myself into thinking maybe Florida has a chance in this game. I don't really think that they do. I know Locked On Gators has been trying to talk himself into Miami having a chance. He doesn't think Miami has any shot in that game. He's a little bit on the cocky side. So that's going to be my next week. My next week is going to be trying to figure out what's going to happen in Gainesville. What's going to happen, and do the Gators have a shot? Do the Canes have a shot to knock the Gators down a peg?
I absolutely love the way the season is kind of breaking down, because you get next Saturday, a week from today, tomorrow, however you want to look at it, you get Canes, Florida Gators. I also get Jane's Addiction that night over at Hard Rock Casino. Very excited. Going to be a good day. And then, of course, the Dolphins have off 2 weeks. So when the Dolphins come back, you're going to have Canes, although they have FAMU and they're going to have Ball State. Am I correct? As those next two games?
Yeah, FAMU and Ball State.
So you have a little bit of, not a break, but not as an intense a game as the Florida game. And then you get into the football season. Then every Saturday and Sunday, it's just get up early, stay up late, and watch football.
Hey, UCF on the schedule after Ball State. So that's a real game.
USF.
USF.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
Did I say UCF?
Yeah,
Close.
some people have been with us all day. RVA Richie, I know he's in the comments. He's been with us. Alex Dono and I have been on the air since 5 o'clock this morning doing shows, and we're getting off
Yeah,
right now.
I'm hitting a wall now. I am tired now.
So if you've been with us all day, we greatly, greatly appreciate that. I'm back at it again tomorrow and on Sunday. Going to be doing Sports Day from noon to 4. You can watch us and you can listen to us right here, 560 WQAM, and the YouTube and the Twitch page. And we are going to get ready. It's Canes next. Take a little break from the Dolphins. We'll see who quarterback 2 is in a couple of days, and we'll just kind of try to figure it all out. Dono, once again, if people want to get their Canes fix, how can they find out more, and how can they get that Canes fix from you?
Locked on Canes. I appreciate you. The podcast that I host every day is called Locked on Canes. It's available free wherever you get your podcasts. It's free on YouTube. Just search on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app. It's available there. Search for Locked on Canes, and you can also find us on YouTube. Locked on Canes on YouTube. You can actually watch us, take us with you wherever you want to go. We keep you informed every single day. We're talking Miami Hurricanes football. So check out Locked on Canes.
Nobody does it better. I get most of my information from you, your interviews, and everything you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate that. Okay, like we said, I've been up since 4 o'clock. I was out late last night at Duffy's Implantation. I'm going to go home, have a couple of beers, and I'm going to be back here tomorrow in the morning getting it done. Dono, I appreciate it so much. You're always welcome back. And if you ever need anything, you just holler at us.
Yeah, I need to sleep.
Get that sleep, Dono. I'm going to get those beers. Dolphins do lose 24-14. No worries. Jacksonville coming to town 2 weeks from Sunday. This has been for Dono. I am Dan Day. Game Day Uncensored on 560 WQAM. Later, Slug.
This summer, enjoy less doggy paddle